My name's Adrienne Samuels Gibbs. I am the Director of Multicultural Content at Medium. I'm also your moderator tonight. This is so exciting. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, hello. Let's just get to it. Can I ask you all some questions? Can I interrogate this film and figure out what is what? Okay. So, gosh, where do we start? I'm going to move up so we can see each other. And I think we're going to have to pass mics, so we'll go back and forth. Okay, cool. So Ashley, I have to ask you, because this did take, 4.5 years, but then it took longer than that. Because it took, 400 years for us to get here, or something like that, right? So tell me about the significance of the film releasing right now, a year after the uprisings, and hundreds of years after many battles.
Yeah, it feels really special, and in a lot of ways feels like the universe just coming together in the ways that it was supposed to. We actually released the film exactly a year ago today on the festival circuit, which was right in the middle of the uprisings for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And me and Morgan were tripping out like when the pandemic came along, because we were like, oh, this isn't going to go anywhere. We have been toiling since 2015. And had faced a lot of obstacles on that path. But, I think it just speaks to the relevance of the issues in this film. Black people have been, as you said, struggling for 400 years. And when I moved to Chicago proper in 2015, young black people were organizing around the killing of Rekia Boyd. But there was no way you could be in that space and not recognize the black women and queer folks and trans folks that were centering their voices. So it still felt like it was the right time, because there have been women in the history of black social movements that have never gotten their heyday. Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells, Ella Baker, that I had never learned about in my formal education. So I feel like it's always the right time to elevate black women and their work, and I really was able to resonate directly with them because of who I was as a black woman. So,
well, and that's exactly it. So that leads me to my second question, which is for Bella. Yeah. When I ask people what they remember, like some of the words, some of the quotes they remember, and you have one too, Janaé, so I'm coming to you next. But the quote people have said from my unofficial unscientific poll is, one of your verses. Even if we don't, our story's gonna make it. Yeah. We're sitting in a city. We're sitting down the street from Ida B. Wells, street. Yeah. Right? That took forever to happen. Yeah. People have tried to silence us. So you are making a statement by saying that the stories are going to get told no matter what. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Oh, absolutely. So even today, right, like I'm still grieving right now the very recent loss of one of my good friends who, at the end of the film, he's there DJing the first block party I threw for the Sister Survivor Network. On the block that I grew up on, in the neighborhood we grew up in, at the park that we just had his balloon release at, right? He would have been right here right now. He would have been right here right now, right? So I think the significance of that line, the importance of that line, even if we don't, our story's gonna make it. Like, it's so many people right now I would love to look out and see, who I cannot look out and see here, who they're angels, they're felons, they're on house arrest, right? They cannot physically be in this space with us, but the importance of what Ashley just did, the importance of what this film does is showing, like, our stories matter. We carry the stories forward. So I'm grieving a very recent loss of my friend and saying his story gonna make it. I'm gonna keep talking about him every time you see this film. Every time I'm on a Q&A, I'm gonna uplift the fact that he was right there and he will be here right now. And there's so many other people who was our comrades, who was marching alongside of us, organizing these marches, organizing these rallies, and they're not here today. But again, it's so much bigger than us. Even Fred Hampton, when he said you can kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill the revolution. Right? I think I just said that another way, like it's been said before, you know. I text my friend Squeak, who I'm talking about, who passed, who was DJing that event. I text his mother today, and she texted me back talking about how she missed my grandmother. She just lost her son and her brother. She talked about how she misses my grandmother. Right, like this, we carry the stories forward. Right, like I have to try to be to her what I know my grandmother would have been to her right now. Right, so I know that's why that line resonates with so many people, because we're all carrying a story forward of somebody else right now. What we do, who we become because of their lives, who we become because of how their death impacts us, that's the story. That's the story. So, yeah. I'm happy that that's the line that resonates with a lot of people also, because I merched it. I put it on shirts. They coming out soon.
I heard that merch. I think Squeak would co-sign that.
You know.
I think Squeak would co-sign that. They say, "Long live John Walt, long live Squeak."
Hey, let's go. Long live John Walt.
Yep.
Let's go.
Long live Squeak. So, Janaé, I have here the unscientific poll that's scientific of everybody's favorite thing that you said in the film. And that is, you said, this changes things. This changes things. Everything has changed. This changes things. You were out there doing the work and doing your work. Doing your work, which is doing the work. Right? So, we saw you trying to do the balance between the public life and the private life. Also, I was one of many people that, Chicago PD sat in front of my house after I was writing about Laquan McDonald, and I know they got the dossiers on you. You opted to put everything out here in this film versus just letting it sit in the dossier. So what's that like? Did you just did you decide, well, they got everything on me anyway, let me just go ahead and be in this documentary? Tell me about that process of saying yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, saying yes to this documentary was really me saying yes to a little short post-school project. This is what I thought this was going to be. I'm going to say it every time, Ashley, because this...
We were bamboozled.
Hoodwinked.
Uh-oh.
No. I mean, I'm honored to be a part of this documentary. I say that to say that none of us knew what this was going to grow into, right? Ashley approached me back in 2015, where I didn't consider myself a leader or anything like that. I was just in the movement. I was in the work with my friends trying to get free, right? And she also a young black woman fresh out of college, like, hey, I am trying to put out this counter narrative against this like charismatic black male leadership in the movement for Black Lives in Chicago. And to me, like, that's important because, like she said, we learned about, what we did learn about black history in school was MLK, maybe Huey P. Newton, maybe Malcolm X, right? But, what about Ella Baker? What about Fannie Lou Hamer, right? And so for me, I'm just like, yeah, everybody that I'm putting in work with right now, well, not everybody, but like most leadership to me look like black femmes, in Chicago. And so for someone to want to document that and tell that story, I was down with it. So that's what led into my yes. And then 4.5 years later, we still filming. I'm like, damn, what is this? But it turned out to be such a beautiful archive of not just the political machine that, you know, we're fighting against, but also, you know, a humanization of the people who are a part of this movement. You know, I think that it was a really important balance and approach that Ashley decided to take to kind of weave in the personal with the political, because the personal is political, right? So yeah, me saying yes to being a part of this was an easy decision, even if I didn't know exactly what I was getting into at first. You know, I have no regrets. And as far as, you know, what it's like to, you know that the ops is watching because you're doing what you're supposed to. I don't care about none of that.
Oh.
Like, I don't care about none of that. I mean, it just comes with the territory, you know. Like, if you know you're doing something right when the state is on you, and so, you know, I'll do it all over again if I had to. So yeah,
a big revolutionary. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so Morgan, I got a real Chicago question for you. I guess everybody here is probably from Chicago, maybe, or lived here for a little bit. Lived here for a little bit.
You gotta do this to me.
Cause I got to do this to you. So I have seen the film a few times on my computer. The film is on the screen. Yeah. And it's sound effects from the people in the audience.
Yeah.
You know, because we talk back.
Right.
Like, y'all can hear us, but you can't hear us because you're sitting here. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if you could just talk about this. I know you've opened already at film festivals, but this premiere here for the reopening of this center. And then everybody hollering back during the film, laughing, talking, tee-hee-heeing. How does that feel from your perspective?
Yes, producer.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. Adrienne, and again, thank you for being a moderator because, you know, I reached out to you and you just said yes right away. And you've been a mentor for this whole journey with me being in Chicago and doing this work. This is the first time I've seen the film in theaters. I'm seeing it for the first time with y'all, and me and Ashley were in the audience boo-hooing because if y'all only knew what it took to get here. I, just like you two, I did not think that I was going to be making a documentary film. I came back to Chicago to start what now is The Tribe, and Ashley was making this documentary and was about 2 years in and had a demo and sent it to me, and I emailed her back like paragraphs. Like, I'm not getting involved, but here. And then it became, all right, I'm going to launch this publication, and then I want to talk to you the next day about how I can get involved because of the material, the material. But it took years, and it took rejection, and it took people saying, it took knowing that us as Black women filmmakers and Ashley as a first-time filmmaker that we were not going to get the funding. We were working for 3 years before we got an injection of capital into this film. We had to put together the rough cut of the film before we had capital for the film, okay? Ashley shot the majority of this film by herself, and y'all could probably see how she grows as a cinematographer throughout the film. There's a point about halfway through where the film looks real sleek. That's when the money came in. That's when the money came in, okay? So it's to experience all of this here with you. It is emotional for us because we went years without paying ourselves a dime, just because we believe in this work. And for me, I started the Tribe with no money, and I was doing Unapologetic with no money. I wasn't eating, sleeping, or doing anything. So yeah, I'm crying and I'm emotional today that this work is here. And that it is a document of a living movement, and nobody will ever be able to take that away from us.
And that's just so beautiful, and that's exactly it. It's this is where the money resides. So I'm happy. I need to like be in the glow. It's the soul glow. So and then, you know, it's the reason why we're here is a terrible reason, but the reason why we're here is a wonderful reason. It's kind of like it's just that dichotomy, I think, all the time. And so I wonder, whoever would like to speak to this, I wonder if you could just speak to needing to find joy in the moments of sorrow, like with the birthday party. They say laughing to keep from crying, but what I like about the film is you see the many facets of us, not just the stuff you see normally in newspapers. So can you just talk about the joy and the sorrow together?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like Morgan said, I had spent like the first year and a half just like documenting everything, and especially in that first fall season. The tape of the killing of Laquan McDonald came out. There was a week of protests after that. Gary McCarthy got fired. It was just like a lot of heavy stuff. And I remember Janaé jokes about it being a short because I was doing it as part of my Cartimquin internship. So at the end of the semester, literally the day of like the Christmas party for Cartimquin, before I went to Janaé's house and like documented her with Alexis, which is the scene you see on screen. And I remember after I filmed that, I was like, oh, this is like so much bigger than what I thought it was going to be, because witnessing just the warmth between her and her roommate Alexis, it reminded me of like all the Black women that I had ever shared space with at the time. I don't know if April's in the crowd somewhere, I was literally living in my line sister's apartment while I was starting this film, and it was just like that warmth and that joy. I just resonated with it so much, and I was like, why have we not experienced this type of thing on screen in a documentary film? And especially with the birthday scenes, Janaé and Bella are born within a week of each other. They're both Pisces. It's very dramatic. But I think as we were cutting the film together, I had filmed a lot of protests and a lot of actions, and I just knew that both myself and the audience that would be watching this would need a moment of levity, and to understand that we aren't all grief and sorrow all the time and always anger, that we take breaks from that and we pull ourselves out of that. And it's so important, the community that you all were building in those scenes, because that's really what sustains the movement, is the people that are around us. And we just had to do some Chicago West Side energy. I didn't even know what I was getting into with that scene. It was supposed to be like a recording session, and then it just turned to a cipher. So I was just happy to be present for both of their birthdays that year.
Can I piggyback off that?
Yeah.
Yes,
I just want to say about the balance between joy and sorrow, because I know that there's people in this audience right now who are holding both space for both of those right now, and I appreciate that. And I guess what I want to say about it is that joy is so important to hold on to, because it can be taken at any moment, right? Like, so, I'm grieving the people, I'm grieving my friends, I'm grieving John Walt, I'm grieving Squeak, but I have to celebrate these women next to me at the same time, because these are my friends too, and they still here, and what they doing right now is incredible, and what Squeak did is not over with yet, because his influence on me allows me to be who I am and to show up in space how I show up. Me thinking about him not being here right now, makes me look at other people and consider what they are carrying right now. And that shapes how I respond to other people, because I know what I'm carrying right now. So even if I think I got a little attitude right now, I'm irritable right now, I got to think maybe you are too, So let me take a moment, let me pause, let me address you how I want to be addressed, right? So I just think it's really important for us to hold on to joy, for us to celebrate the people around us, right? Like, we will be quick to celebrate Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, our ancestors that we only know about in history books. It's real life heroes sitting right next to you, doing the work right now, continuing that work, right? Like, so that's the importance of we have to find a balance, because we still here.
Yeah, word that. I like that, because that's it. And you got to tell the stories. it's what I'm curious, from a technical technical aspect, documentaries are, lots and 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 lots of film. For our director and producer, can you talk about how much didn't make it? How many hours are we talking about?
Man.
I think 150 hours of footage total into 90 minutes. But that's actually low for a documentary.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that's low for documentaries. And then you also, got,
150 hours.
that's a lot.
Hours. It's only 24 of them in a day.
Right. And over years. I think it's a really interesting dichotomy looking at the uprisings of last year and looking at how some people are coming into consciousness because they recognize George Floyd. And then now they're doing the research and they're saying, wait a minute, who is Rekia Boyd? Wait a minute, why are we saying Laquan's name? It's kind of trippy that you've been at it for this long and it's not even that long. And that's the crazy part about how all this ends up. But I wonder if you all, and again, self-select here, because probably anyone could answer it, but can you just talk, it's like a diary, but it's not. I wonder if you could talk about the selection. Do you wish there were scenes? Did you think that you had scenes that were definitely going to be in it? And then we're like, nope, actually, not really. And if so, what were the scenes? Talk about the cuts.
Why are you looking up? There were scenes, but yeah, I think. Go ahead. Yeah.
Freedom Square.
Yeah.
Most definitely Freedom Square. So when you're filming a documentary and you don't have any funding and you have to go do other work and come back to it, there's things that we miss and we can't create footage when we're physically not there. Or if we go out and film and the footage doesn't come back how we expected it to come back, or there's technical difficulties and stuff. But there was a 40-day occupation, 45-day occupation of Holman Square, a CPD black site, where activists were out there just being in community, and their presence there brought people from North Lawndale who just needed things and just being like, hey, y'all are out here, so I need a place to sleep, or I need some food, or I need whatever. And Bella was a part of that. And it's something that I definitely wish was in this film, because it speaks so much to the on the ground efforts and the strain and the toil, and also the love that they bring to the community and the love that they bring to the West Side. There's been such a false narrative about what a Black Lives Matter organizer looks like and what their motivations are and what they do. And I think for Bella's story in particular, with that being on the West Side, that would have said a lot about her. Also,
And John Wall and Squeak was the.
yeah. Also, one of my favorite scenes in the film is Bella going to visit her brother. I personally fought so hard to get a camera inside of the prison, and we had to be so strategic about how we could shoot that scene so that you all felt something. I hope you felt something when you watched that scene. And what ended up happening was we drove around that area, so you see like what a prison town looks like. There's not much there. The prison is the lifeblood of that area. And then we were driving the car, and these black birds just started surrounding us, and I was like, Ashley, film right now. But and then we layered that over Bella's written piece for when she applied for her grant, and that's how you got those scenes coming together. But that's really us filling in the gap for us not being able to go in and get that scene with Charlie. And what happened was the facility was saying, like, the camera person can come in with the camera, but we can't get y'all with Bella. So it was just like,
Yeah, like they thought
you were
they
willing
gonna
to
play the
allow a
revolution.
film crew to have more access to Bella's brother than Bella.
Yeah.
So we just said, we scrapped all of that because it just didn't even
And
feel.
they wanted a $2,000 location fee.
Well, that too, but just like ethically for us, it didn't even feel right for us to get that type of access to her brother and for her not to be able to be in the room.
I'm not sure if I should even say, because of, it might take away the magic of how films is cut or whatever. But but no, there's a scene where, I'm talking about some of the photos on my wall, including the one with my father when, he was on the bullhorn, and, was talking about him, his early organizing days against police on campus. And part of what I was saying about, that kind of shaped my formative experiences and just like thoughts and political analysis about the prison system. I was actually talking about my uncle at that time. There's a photo of my grandparents visiting my uncle in prison, my mom's brother, who my mom was in the film. Y'all saw her. My uncle Whoopi, rest in peace. He's no longer here, but he was in prison for most of my life. And the times that he was out, we spent time together. He put me on jazz. He has a really special place in my heart. And, he was in and out of prison and jail for a long time. And, knowing him, my grandfather, who was also incarcerated, his sons, who's also incarcerated, really taught me a lot about intergenerational incarceration and criminalization and the impacts on families. A lot of what Bella talks about in the film. And, my explanation of all of that, I guess, was real long. Yeah, Ashley was like, listen, we got to make some cuts, so we just going to put this and this together. And it's gonna look like you're talking about your dad, which I was talking about my dad, some of that. But really, that piece about my uncle is really important. And I just want to name it in this space because it's important to me, and it just ain't make it into the film. But you know what? I ain't even mad, sis. I ain't even mad. But I just want people to know. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate all you all saying that, because the thing is, it's a documentary, and there's so much life. There's so much life, and there's so many stories. I was in awe when I watched it because I covered that stuff, and I was trying to understand how you narrowed it down. Because there's several books here, several films here, and you narrowed it down, and you found a way to tell a cohesive story, and you did something different. You went in instead of zooming out. You could have just told Laquan's story and wrapped it up neatly with Mr. Man going to jail for 10 seconds. I'm sorry, I did say it. Okay, 15 seconds.
Okay.
But you told a different story to focus on the sisters. So there's a historical. I'm glad you brought up the history here, because there's a lot of history that doesn't get told about queer Black women who changed the world. And I wonder if you could just talk about this long lineage and how you stand in it. It's such a refreshing. It's just so refreshing to see the story told fully, without hiding anybody, and without leaving out important parts, very important parts. So speak to that a little bit. Who would like to speak to that? Telling this truth, all the truth.
I'll take it first. Then somebody could jump in and rescue me. But yeah, I think the first thing I want to say is just it was so important for us to not compartmentalize ourselves. For us to allow every part of our identity to speak truth. And so I think the most important thing about this film, about the queerness of this film at least, is that we are talking about liberation from a Black queer feminist lens. It's not about our personal sexuality, right? But it is about the lens through which we view the liberation of Black people, which says that none of us are free until all of us are free. None of us are free until the most marginalized of us are free, which says that we understand the process of decentering without erasure. So now that we have a story, that Black women have a story where we are centered, right? We can move to the side. Trans women need a story where they are centered. Disabled women need a story where they are centered, right? Like, so it's the importance of saying we understand the margins because we exist there.
Who needs to hop on
it. That's it.
Okay,
That's
didn't
it.
need rescuing after all. I did that one. All right.
I mean, that.
Out here
That's it. That's everything, and that's it. This is going to be my last question because we're going to take some audience questions. So my question is about, it's about abolition. It's about what's next. It's about what are your predictions about what's next for the movement here in Chicago and the movement everywhere? We could just go down the line. So I'll start with Morgan.
This film taught me a lot about movement work and about abolition. Like when I was first introduced to these concepts through you all, I didn't even have a stance. Like that wasn't something that was on my mind. But when I was riding in the car with you and I was telling you, Bella, I've never had to experience going to visit someone in prison, in jail. And you saying like this has been my entire life. I had to do some searching and some reading and learning and across all of my work think about the ways in which this generation of leaders is stretching our minds, okay, to think and imagine beyond what we've been taught and what we've ever experienced. So we hear abolition, and for a lot of us, it scared us initially. But then we had to stretch and think, okay, what would it mean if someone other than the police responded to a mental health crisis? And we're seeing policies being enacted around that idea. But we would have never got there if they didn't set the goalpost at abolition, So I think that they're giving us, really a lesson in negotiation tactics where, you may be like, y'all are doing too much, y'all are turning people off to the movement when really they're just stretching all of us and we're getting some progress on the way. So I thank all of my peers for teaching me and for stretching my mind.
Yeah. We haven't finished this yet. So to say what's next, we keep going. Abolition, like I heard Angela Davis say that she did not think she would see abolition be a part of the mainstream conversation in America in her lifetime. Angela Davis said that. Angela Davis has been organizing since before I was born. Right? And she's organized every single day as if today could be the day that abolition happens. Even though she strongly believed that she would never see it in her lifetime, she's still organized as though she would today. So that's on us. We got to organize every single day. We got to love on our people every single day as if today could be the day. As if today could be the day. So what's next? We keep going. Like, I don't know if this happened in the film. This woman is a doctor.
Period.
This woman is a doctor. We keep
did not happen in
going.
the film.
Okay, right. It didn't happen in the film yet.
Last month.
Right. She's a doctor. Y'all saw that. She was crying on the film. Talking about some, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know. I'm never going to finish. She finished.
Yeah.
She finished. So we feel like that. We feel like that every single time. It's another hashtag. Every single time. It's another friend. Every single time. The news got another count of how many this weekend, and you know somebody in that count. And every single time we feel that. We feel like it's never going to happen. I'm never going to do this. Change never going to happen. But guess what? This is change right here. This is change right here. It was a point in time where people looked at Frederick Douglass like he was the craziest man in the world. Abolish slavery? How? How, Sway? That's the whole way of life.
Right.
How you going to abolish slavery? How you going to abolish the whole system that we understand as our whole way of living? But guess what? We did it. We did it once. We could do it again, period.
Yeah. My prognosis for what's next, I think, is actually really optimistic because, you know, I see abolition as like a grand strategy, right? Like, if abolition is a world where prison is obsolete, police are obsolete, like the punitive systems and just our punitive ways with interacting with each other on an individual level is obsolete, then like everything changes, right? And just the fact that, like you say, Angela Davis couldn't imagine abolition being like a mainstream topic. Like, they talk about defunding the police on CNN now.
Barack Obama said that out his mouth.
Right? You know, like, defunding police is like a tactic in the grand strategy of abolition, right? And we talking about that. There's cities that have actually reduced police budgets. There are people who are thinking more critically about how do we make our conflict more generative instead of getting the state involved, right? There are like model programs in places like where is it? Like Oklahoma, and there's a couple other places that do actually have like first responder mental health crisis programs that utilize other, you know, professionals outside of the police, right? Like, people are experimenting more. People are trying everything to change everything so that the way that we're living right now is not caught up and entangled in all of these punitive systems that are literally killing us every day, right? So I believe that if we continue to ask the right questions, I believe if we continue to challenge the status quo, then, you know, the prognosis is really good, you know, and we gonna continue to have some, you know, we're going to continue to lose people. We're going to continue to struggle. We're going to continue to fight, right? But it's that finding that joy along the way that we talked about earlier in this conversation. It's celebrating the people who are still here, right? And just really keeping our eyes on freedom and locked on, you know, like what, just the aspirational aspect of what abolition is. Because abolition to me is not just about tearing down. It's not just about demolishing. It's about building. It's about building what doesn't exist. It's about building relationships. It's about just changing everything. That's really all it boils down to. So, you know, I think if we continue to do that on our individual one-on-one level and, you know, more broadly, systematically, structurally, we got it.
Yeah.
Why you had to be right, y'all?
Because you last on the line.
Yup, they did. I should have gone first. That'd be too much trying to follow y'all.
You get it.
I mean, I'm going to talk more from a media perspective, but I think this process told me that there's no action too big or too small to cause a shift in the narrative. And for me, starting this process, I was 22 years old. I was fresh out of college. I was a full baby. I thought I was grown at the time, but what I had never really, I guess in my formative years, I had always felt like I had really followed things by the book. I went to private Catholic school for 18 years from Indianapolis. Shout out Indianapolis.
See, that's why I thought she was the feds at first. When she tried to come do this, I was like, girl, what? What precinct you work for?
But like from even the first moment of the camera rolling, like I felt a shift in myself from just witnessing not just Janaé and Bella, but everybody, all the black women and queer folks that I was seeing in the movement. And I think that showed me that we all have a stake in this. It doesn't have to look like a PhD. It doesn't have to look like a raptivist. It doesn't have to look like a journalist or a filmmaker, but we all have a stake. And I think that there will always be hope in community. Like, if anyone here has lived in Chicago for a significant number of years, there's always organizing for something. I don't care what you put it at. And so I think I'm hoping that this process encourages another young black woman or a young black person like me to understand that their perspective matters. I can't imagine this film if it was told by a man or a white woman. Like,
it wasn't gonna be told, okay?
Right, and so I think our perspective matters, and it was a very difficult tool to push through that, but I'm just really thankful that I had this community to hold me up, and I'll always thank Chicago for welcoming me in that way.
It's a 10-year-old revolutionary in the audience right now who was the first person to come up to me when the film ended, and she said, I have to see this again. Imagine, we started this at 22 in our 20s. She 10 years old. She 10 years old. The future better watch out.
That's real. Well, thank you. This is good stuff. All the people who swoop in from all over the world trying to do Chicago stories. They swoop in and they call us and they say, hey, can you help me find some black people?
They better not call me because I tell them to leave. I'll be like, what do you know about Chicago?
You help me? I know they've called you. Can you help me find some black people?
I'd be like, absolutely not.
On the east side of Chicago?
Not the east side.
Like, where is that? But where is that? So we do have time for a couple questions. Y'all up for a couple questions?
Yeah,
a couple questions, and then we're having an after party at Virgin Hotel, y'all, on the 25th floor.
Buy me a drink.
Come hang out with us and talk to us some more.
So let's do this. We could do 3 questions. A question must be asked in 20, 30 seconds. It's not church or church wannabe.
Right.
I love everybody.
You want to just tell me how much fine I got? Say that for later. Don't do that on the mic.
We love everybody. Now we don't have I have a foot problem because I broke it. But otherwise I'd walk out and be like, hey, talk to me. So if you could just stand up and holler, I'm sure there's really good acoustics in here. This is real fancy theater. So if there's any questions, yes, with the bucket hat, please.
Yeah, bucket hat fly too.
Proceed up.
Right now.
Today, definitely. Today.
Right now.
Today. It's the
This
first
very
time we've
moment.
seen it in theaters with the surround sound and everything today for me.
Yeah.
I have a slightly different moment.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I think the first time that I showed you Janaé and Bella the film, we actually showed them before we picture locked it. And I remember we had been at this editing suite for 4 months, just going at it. And I just remember afterwards, I was so nervous. I was like, they're gonna hate it. I'm gonna misrepresent them. Morgan always jokes with me because she was like, you always thought everybody hated you all the time. I was like, Chicago organizers don't play.
She was scared of the organizers.
No, Chicago organizers don't play. But I just remember afterwards, this was the fall of 2019. Y'all didn't even really say anything about the film. Y'all were just literally reflecting on everything that you had done from 2015 to 2016. And that really mattered to me because when I decided to make this a feature film, it was in part because I felt like people were going to forget what they did. And I feel like that has happened so much in Black social movements, and it's the reason that we see so many of the same cycles over and over again. So it just really, in that moment, I felt like, okay, this meant something. Even if it doesn't hold significance for people outside of this circle, if it's a space for people that did the work to reflect and heal and then to keep doing the work, then it's important.
That was very beautiful.
Yes, excellent.
Beautiful. Yeah, friends.
So do we have yes, you. Yes, you.
Boss. Okay.
I've been watching you for years, for a long time.
For sure.
And you're a very...
He was in the film for a little cameo too, bro.
I was in there, the 2 words we use is sincere and being genuine. So sincerity and genuine, right? I've always I've seen a lot of fake social activists who do the same thing you do. A lot of actors, a lot of rappers who rap blah, 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 and turn around like that's not for the people and why would you go back and leave? What is it about you, because I naturally feel that about you, that you're genuinely sincere? What do you think it is that draws me to that? Why are you so sincere?
Why you so real, Bella? Why you keep it 100?
Why? Because
Damn. That's a good question.
I've always wanted to know about you.
Ah. Okay, so I've seen even my own peers like go through cancel culture. And I'm just calling it that for lack of a better term, but I've seen how people make I've seen how people by not being sincere, by not sticking to who they claim that they are. I've seen people get their veil ripped off. You know, I've seen people have to really account for that in a public eye in ways that I don't want to imagine. I don't want to experience that, right? So even in the film, you see me grappling with myself like, okay, am I still gonna date these fine ass men who ain't shit?
They fine.
You know what I'm saying? But they fine though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I really pride myself in being who I say I am. You know, so even on my roughest days, when I'm my worst critic, when I was just on my Instagram calling myself inadequate, calling myself an imposter, calling myself undeserving because I felt so terribly bad about the fact that I didn't get to send Squeak his invitation to be here before he passed. And it was on my mind to do, and I know better. I know when there's somebody on my heart, I'm supposed to reach out to them. I know that, you know, and I didn't do that. I waited too late, and it was too late by the time. So I've been really messed up this week, just struggling with myself. Like, am I who I say I am? You know, but the reason why it's so important to be is so in those moments you could reach for better thoughts so much more quicker than anybody else could. Because I gotta be, hold on, wait, I'm telling myself I'm inadequate. I was literally just every single day of my morning, I've been at the West Side, at the Boys and Girls Club, volunteering, helping these kids work on their raps, work on their presentations, work on their performance delivery, work on their beat making, work on their audio engineering, so that they can do a showcase, right? So that we can nurture the next generation of artists. So it's just, I don't ever want to be stuck there. You know, we all get there with that self-doubt. We all get there with that, am I doing enough? We all get there. We all have those moments. But the more you stick to who you really say you are, the quicker you could get out of those moments. The quicker you could reach for better feeling thoughts.
Hey, that's what's up. Okay.
That was a good ass question.
I'd like to also remind folks, if you are the tweeting sort, the Instagramming sort, the TikToking sort, whatever it is you got, Facebook, whatever, Unapologetic doc, you can.
Okay, you better know that.
Hey, you can tag everybody. It is important for everybody to share and to tell and to share the story. So I'm just going to plug that. If there's not one last question, okay, all right, you got it. Please ask your question.
My heart was bothered in the film that seeing the strong young black women had the greatest voices. Did anybody reach out here in Chicago to sit down and hear what you had to say? Because that bothered me. All these people here, all these people got power. No one bothered to sit down to these young women that were so strong and educated. And no one wanted to hear about our children dying. That bothers my heart. So I hope many people see the film, but that dialogue can be opened up if it wasn't. Because that bothered me. I couldn't see how no one would want to sit down to each one of you young ladies and really kind of get something resolved here. This city is too big. We're not in the back south where I came from.
Come on.
Minds are more open here. So that And I think all the young people here need to keep pushing what you all started.
Yeah.
Back you up. Keep y'all going.
Yeah.
To the end of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
We sat down with him. I said we sat down with him.
Right. Our peers sat down with us, but as far as like elected officials, y'all, you see in the film, Lori Lightfoot was the Chicago Police Board president at the time, right? And this is a woman who presents herself as a progressive black queer woman mayor. We are the black queer women of Chicago who were coming to her to tell her our grievances with what's going on in this city. And she did not hear us. She did not. And beyond her not hearing us, the city did not hear us. The city elected her as mayor. The city elected her as mayor, and then they wait till now, to after she's has more power, to, let's listen to black women. And only because of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Let's listen to black women now. Right, but we've been saying this. We've been saying defund the police. We've been saying we need mutual aid. We've been saying this, But people listen when it's opportune for them to listen.
That's it. So that's it. I mean, there's a lot of gems here. If there was more merch to be made, there's a lot of sentences that could be made into merch.
But to be clear, there is merch outside that you can purchase.
Yes.